Crown the back-to-school champion parent with a Sagicor Bank unsecured loan.
The time by Sagicor Bank is
Tonight in CVM News at 7, PNP calls for independent inquiry into 2025 general elections. And JLP fires back at PNP over vote buying claims. Also in the newscast, ambulance absence in Hanover raises alarms. In the business report, the impact of trade wars on small economies and investors. And later in sports, Hillel marks Manning Cup debut with a win. From Kingston, Jamaica, this is CVM News at 7. It's Thursday, September 11, 2025. I'm Amoy Harriet. Thanks for joining us. Up first this evening, the People's National Party is calling for an independent inquiry into the 2025 general election. Party President Mark Golding made the call at a press conference on Thursday at the party's headquarters in St. Andrew. As Akeem Orrit now reports, Mr. Golding raised a number of other concerns.
At the party's headquarters in Kingston, People's National Party President Mark Golding addressed the media about what he calls troubling signs in the conduct of the September 3 election. Golding says while the party doesn't have enough evidence to mount a legal challenge against the outcome of the election, he is deeply concerned about the extensive use of state resources to impact the outcome of the election.
The massive political advertising paid for by ministries, departments and agencies of government during and up to election day at the cost of taxpayers to benefit the incumbent JLP administration is problematic.
Golding added that the PNP has other concerns about actions of the governing Jamaica Labour Party in the build-up to the election.
We're also concerned about the unprecedented scale of distribution of benefits, black tanks, fertilizer, building materials, cash, by both the state and the Jamaica Labour Party. And in some cases, it's very different to distinguish one from the other.
The PNP is also raising concern about how the election was executed by the Electoral Office of Jamaica.
We think there should be an independent inquiry into the operation of the 2025 general election, and it should be urgently undertaken, with changes implemented for future elections, because we need to improve the processes. In particular, the process that results in hours-long waits at many polling stations by voters who turn out to vote.
As a solution to the issues raised, Golding says the PNP will be going into different constituencies to get first-hand information.
We will be sending teams into those constituencies which were most affected by these issues to conduct a field survey. This survey will empower Jamaicans who experienced or witnessed these issues to share their experiences with us.
Akeem Orrit, CVM News.
Also from the press conference, PNP President Mark Golding says he received advice from the party's lawyers who attended the final count that the magisterial recount was unlikely to change the outcome in any of the seats. But for the St. Andrew West Central seat, Golding says that seat is under critical observation by his lawyers.
West Central St. Andrew, however, the nature of the irregularities which took place there is being carefully scrutinized in anticipation of a case being brought to the constituted authority for appropriate relief. I won't be able to answer more questions on that today. That matter is with our lawyers.
Provide evidence or shut up. That stern response from the Jamaica Labour Party to accusations from the PNP of vote buying and voter suppression. The party called a press conference mere hours after the PNP held one of its own.
The PNP thinks that it is happening. They should provide the evidence. Otherwise, they should shut up. They should shut up, and I say so as diplomatically as possible.
A fiery campaign committee chairman, Dr. Christopher Tufton, at the Jamaica Labour Party's headquarters on Thursday. The party is firmly dismissing claims of vote buying and voter suppression, describing them as baseless, politically motivated, and aimed at undermining the credibility of last week's election.
I have no knowledge of it. If someone has knowledge, they should bring it forward. That's what we're saying. You can't just go out there and say, wolf, wolf, and have no evidence, no basis on which to say it. Now, I am not going to swear for thousands and thousands of people who have been involved in the electoral process. What I'll say is that from a policy perspective, as a political organization, the Jamaica Labour Party, as a policy, does not support vote buying. But it was in 2019 that their own General Secretary, or former General Secretary Paul Burke, reported in the media that comrades, and I'm quoting him, have no moral authority to condemn anyone for vote buying.
The party is rubbishing calls by the PNP for an independent inquiry into the September 3 election proceedings.
We will not accept and we reject, whether it is implied or it is stated, as came out at the PNP's conference, is that somehow their chance of winning the election was because of either malpractices, vote buying, or slowness of voting. We're not accepting that at all. And the Electoral Commission clearly has not accepted that.
Meanwhile, chairman of the JLP's Manifesto Committee, Kamina Johnson-Smith, shifted the focus to an issue she said the party observed last Wednesday.
What does, however, provide us with greater and more concrete concern is the issue of the leader of the opposition touring constituencies apart from his own on election day and in being in the vicinity of polling stations outside of his constituency on election day. Videos and photographs of this activity have now come to hand, including his visit in the precincts of a polling station in central Kingston in particular. We're of the view, the considered legal view, that the conduct of the opposition leader on general election day, September 3rd, 2025, is inconsistent with the provisions of the Representation of the People's Act, and we will say more on this at a later date.
She went further.
Mr. Golding, are you going to resign in the same way Dr. Phillips did? Are you going to resign in the same way Mrs. Simpson Miller did? That type of question, that the GenSec, Dr. Campbell, having failed in your first bid as General Secretary of the PNP, will you resign?
In the meantime, the Electoral Commission of Jamaica is rejecting a media report that 21% of polling stations turned away voters on election day who were in line at 5 p.m. Director of Elections Glaspel Brown is also dismissing reports circulating online of missing ballot boxes. Crystal Williams tells us more.
The September 3 general elections were spearheaded by the Electoral Office of Jamaica and observed by Citizens Association for Free and Fair Elections, CAFE. Director of Elections Glaspel Brown says that the supervisors on location at each polling station were in charge of communicating any challenges to the commission. He says none such challenges were communicated.
We didn't get any report or any concern being expressed then that anybody was in a line or being denied to vote after 5 p.m.
Brown adds that CAFE also clarified that the original information in the press release was not factually supported. It was understood that 21% of persons in line to vote at 5 p.m. were allegedly not allowed to do so. However, CAFE clarified that this information was only reporting on a specific 2/3 of its volunteers in the field who had submitted a report.
So Nick CAFE have clarified that issue. I know they had a release on it. So they have clarified that what was in that initial release was not, to put it this way, was not respective of the correct information.
The Director of Elections also categorically denied allegations relating to missing ballot boxes.
No ballot box was missing. All the 7,294 ballot boxes were counted. So in the final count, they were accounted for. Our record indicates that all the ballot boxes that were issued and should have come back to our counting centers were accounted for.
According to Brown, all the necessary personnel were able to confirm the fairness of the 2025 general elections.
The public count was done in the presence of the returning officers and the candidates or the agent, and that none of the counting station was ever any matter brought or highlighted that there's a missing ballot box.
Crystal Williams, CVM News.
More reactions this evening to scores of students being locked out of schools due to infringement of grooming policies. Two cultural experts are adding context to the issue they insist is a relic of British colonialism. Kevin Black has more.
The schools need to be much more sensitive to what the students want.
With some schools sanctioning students due to hair and uniform infractions, cultural experts are weighing in. Senior lecturer in the Department of Government at the University of the West Indies Mona campus, Dr. Maziki Theme, says the policing of black bodies by school administrators is grounded in the legacy of colonialism.
Is rooted in ideas of civilization, whose culture ought to be protected. And in our experience of education, there are still significant remnants of colonial experience, Eurocentric ideas, and ideas about hair and presentation of body fit into those norms. The particular hair that is deemed out of control, unruly, needs to be tamed, is black people's hair.
It's a polarizing issue with strong views on either side.
Well, the attire, I can definitely agree with whatever code that the school might have. You know, whether it's the hemming of the ladies' skirts too short or pants too tight for the gentlemen. The hair thing now, I'm not so much with that as well, because a lot of these girls do have some of them do have a lot of small hair, and when they don't lay it down, it does, have a very unkempt look to it.
I do believe that the appearance of some students, right, can deter not their learning ability, but it can be somewhat of a distraction. When you're so much focused on, appearance coming to school rather than what you're actually taking home, right, it can be something to go against, not the motive of the school, but what you take home as an individual.
Speaking on a lead story on Wednesday, Professor Emerita of Literary and Cultural Studies at UWI Mona, Carolyn Cooper, believes there is a disconnect between the older generations and the youngsters.
Many old people love to cramp young people's style. And I think a lot of old people forget what it is like to be young. They forget the joy of celebrating yourself with like a baby here. Style is an essential part of our identity. And we really have to acknowledge that young people like to present themselves in a stylish way.
Both women believe that schools should allow students to have greater freedom of expression moving forward.
We are repeating rituals of humiliation when it comes to how we treat them in relation to their self-expression.
There's a difference between tidiness and the aesthetic, what you feel good about.
Kevin Black reporting for CVM News.
Our news package continues in just a moment.
Delve deep into the issues. We'll take you beneath the surface.
Greetings and salutations. My name is Orville Higgins, and it's another edition of Fan Central.
Talking to the people at the heart of the top sporting stories. Hear from your favorite sportsmen and women and the administrators who work tirelessly to make it all happen. It's a live sports talk.
I've written an entire article.
Yes.
Looking at all the major issues every Tuesday at 9 p.m. It's Fan Central.
Get ready for Jesus 2025, 25th Jubilee Year of Hope with Father Holong and Friends, a celebration of faith and the life of Jesus Christ at the National Arena. Gala shows on September 27 to 28 and October 4 to 5. Tickets adults $2,000 and $3,000, children $1,200. All proceeds support missionaries of the poor. Get your tickets now. Call 876-774-7350 or 876-809-5877. Jesus 2025. You can't afford to miss it.
Crunch your craving with the value menu from KFC. With combos starting at just $620. KFC, it's finger licking.
Welcome back to CVM News at 7. We're continuing the news. It's time to hit the ground running. This from newly elected Member of Parliament for St. Thomas Eastern, Rosemary Shaw. Ms. Shaw, who's the councillor for the Morant Bay Division and former mayor of Morant Bay, says her plans for the constituency will positively impact the lives of St. Thomas natives. Crystal Williams tells us more.
It's not a gift. It's a duty.
This was shared by political veteran Yvonne Rosemary Shaw as the next Member of Parliament for St. Thomas Eastern. She says the plans she has for the constituency will come to life now that she has been elected. One of the first issues she intends to tackle is the water situation in the constituency.
My first task is to have a meeting with the stakeholders, National Water Commission, so we can sit and get a better understanding of the water situation and how it affects the community.
She says she intends to make improvements to the Bamboo River area in Morant Bay, St. Thomas, as it has become a cause for concern.
That gully is in one of the worst in the history of this constituency. And if you ask residents, they will tell you that it has not been cleaned for about 3 years now, and I will make sure that that is done.
She also says the presence of Dr. Fenton Ferguson during her campaign was a gratifying experience, and that outgoing Member of Parliament, Dr. Michelle Charles, was in no place to admonish her.
I was a councillor at the age of 21, and I have always been championing the cause of the downtrodden, the poor, and the needy in this constituency.
Shaw pledged that all the plans in place for the community will be completed.
I will make sure that all the plans that I had envisaged comes to fruition.
Crystal Williams reporting for CVM News.
As the University of the West Indies and the International Atomic Energy Agency continue to
nuclear waste, you put it on a truck, put it on a ship, send it back to the manufacturer.
Dr. Glegg explained a nuclear plant would run much like any other power facility, using heat to generate electricity.
From my knowledge and my exposure, having